Welcome back to the Sic Podcast with Sunny, Nadi Raz, and Chris.
Yeah, we lost him today.
He's out of town. He's in India. But today we have a very special guest. We have Foong with us.
Hello guys, my name is Foong. I'm very excited to be in this podcast, and we're going to talk about a topic that I think gonna help a lot of people, including the new students.
Yeah, so this will be good advice for new college students or pretty much just anybody that's going through maybe a rough patch in their life and they need some advice how to get through it or anything like that, maybe some guidance.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people all have in common, that they have to deal with their stress and depression and anxiety and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that we can share our honest experience with you guys.
I think that we've come from a pretty well-rounded place. I mean, I'm someone that has suffered from anxiety since I was in early elementary school. I mean, it's been like a lifelong thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And Foong, I think that he deals with it also for like a long period of his life.
Yeah.
Just on and off.
Yes. I just had a recent depression.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, I always consider myself a happy and optimistic person.
Mm-hmm.
But when that struck me, I feel like in a hollow hole of depression. I try and fight very hard to get out of it. And I think it's the worst experience that happened to me in my life.
I definitely have some stories that'll go along with that. But why don't you start off with telling us kind of how you were before that, and then sort of how you fell into that.
Mm-hmm. So, as my family traditional view about life, that we always want to be happy, because the Asian culture, they always want to do things in a positive ways, and never when even in the hardest time of their life. So that's just how I built up my sense of feeling since I was young until when I started college. On the growing up in my mind and becoming more mature, I started to see things in a different way. And I kind of built a imagined world for myself that everything is perfection. I'm perfect. My surrounding is perfect. But then when I hit junior years, I started to know that not everything is perfect. And I think that is one of the things that gave me depression. And also one of the biggest reasons I think that bring out the sense of imperfection into me and insecurity is that my recent breakup with somebody that I had a long relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things that you need to work out in a long relationship is to communication, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Definitely.
So I imagine the person that I haven't met in my head through what he said to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to compare myself to something that could be perfect for him, but I'm not perfect. And that's when the insecurity comes. And that's how I had the deepest point in my life, depression.
Mm-hmm. And so, what kind of things did you experience with the depression, or what were you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
So when I broke up with my last relationship, I felt like, people usually think when they have depression, they usually say, my heart feel like a rock, and my stomach feel like a notch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what I felt. And it was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, my heart beat, I feel like it beat out my chest.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Every day when I try to sleep, a rock is on my chest.
Oh man, I know that feeling all too well.
Yes, it was
That's
horrible.
rough.
Sometime in the middle of the night when I was sleeping, I woke up and started, oh my God, what is existence? It's horrible. Have you ever had that feeling?
I think that I've sort of, I don't know, whenever I go through like a period of like very like rough anxiety or depression or something like that, I definitely get those physical symptoms, and it's kind of scary because you don't really know what's happening to you at first. I mean, if someone's never experienced it before and they start feeling it, maybe they think that they're like having a heart attack or something. But it's just really,
I see.
it's just the stress
I see.
that goes through you.
Yes.
And I don't think I've ever had like an existential crisis like you, but
Yeah, everyone has in different degrees. But I remember we talked about it in your car when we were driving, and you shared with me, and I felt it.
yeah.
Yeah, we had something in common. I think everyone has like a certain degree of anxiety or depression. So maybe Sunny, the happiest person I'm friends with, have you ever had that experience?
I mean, like, I guess the most kind of saddest point in my life was probably when my first love just like rejected me and all that stuff. It felt pretty bad. Like I felt like terrible all the time. I guess that was probably my lowest point in my life.
Oh yeah.
When I just felt brokenhearted, and I never got over her until like 3 years. So it was long. It was like a long process, but after a while you're like, oh man, like it's time. It's just time to move on. There's no point in just holding that feeling anymore for that person, and you just gotta keep going.
It's a difficult thing to move on from someone like that. When you have such strong feelings and then it's not, like reciprocated or something.
It always sucks to have that kind of feeling.
I see. Okay, I started to see that everyone, when they have depression, is one of the main reason is because somebody else's.
Yeah. Sometimes it's usually someone else's.
That's crazy.
Like,
wow.
Reason why.
Because
sometimes it's internal though. Like sometimes I know. So for me, I don't know what my problem is, but ever since I was like a little kid, I've always had social anxiety. Like, I don't think I was ever one of those kids that was, like, kind of carefree and just, like, plays with everybody. I was always, like, kind of worried about, I don't know, maybe they just wouldn't like me or I should just be by myself or something.
I see.
And so, but, I don't know, I mean, I started practicing some things and getting some help that I'll talk about probably a little bit later when we go into, like, how to fix that stuff. But, and so after elementary school through, probably middle school to high school, I was actually in a really good place mentally, and I didn't have anything really bad, any bad symptoms or anything until sophomore year of college. And then that was those 2 years, sophomore and junior year of college, were like the lowest years of my life. And I can tell that story later, but...
Okay. I see. Yeah. A lot of the things that happen in college.
Yeah.
That I think a lot of people need to be mentally prepared for. Because a lot of young people, when they come to college, they don't know what it's going to feel like. They think it's going to about either studying or partying or being in a relationship. I have a lot of friends that told me that they rush into a relationship and it's until they know it's toxic. They don't know how to get out of it, and a lot of that bring them depression. So I think that our talk today maybe can help a lot of you deal with it, and we can share in our common resolution to this problem.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So when I believe the saying that the people you met is meant to be your friends, and that's exactly true. Because before that, I was happy. I only met people that they always have a positive energy, and they all normal. It seemed like normal. But when I got out of my depression, right, I started to have friends that also had depression, or friends that I already had started to share with me what they experienced when they heard my story. And a lot of them still dealing with it. And they asked me, how did I get out of depression? What helped you out of it? And then I had to be honest with them. I didn't want to be so religious sense, but it's actually Buddhism. helped me out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people trust me on this because they know that Buddhism is very peaceful, right?
Yeah. Or meditating and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things like that.
You wanna? So I think that me and Sunny are Buddhists here, right?
Yeah.
But I grew up as Buddha. I learned a lot about Buddhism. It's built the person who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm willing to share with you two and everyone listening about what I know in a not a practical sense.
Philosophical.
Yeah, philosophical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's approaching this from not like a religious standpoint, but more of a philosophical one, that even if you're not an active practicer of Buddhism, you can still take away these like key concepts from a philosophical standpoint and apply it to your own life.
Yes, a lot of my friends are not Buddhists, but they're willing to learn about. And Buddhism is a very open view for a lot of other religions too, because we don't really worship anything. We learn it as a philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully everyone gonna enjoy this talk. I share with you about my experience and how I got out of it. So I always grow up being a happy person and have that Buddhist traditional view of being emptiness. They always believe in emptiness. But when I had depression, it's when I got loose on my traditional views. I didn't practice Buddhism for so long. And then I got into depression, and my heart feel like a rock. My stomach feel like a notch. And somebody, Buddha, told me, if it feel like a rock, release it. If it feel like a knot, open it. You don't have to hold it.
Mm-hmm.
And wow. I feel like it's true.
So how did you? I mean, it sounds easy on paper to just like let go of that weight and just relieve yourself of it. But in practice, it might be a little bit harder. So were there certain things that you did to help yourself release?
Yes. So when I first heard that saying, I had to believe myself that I could get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have a mistake that when they're in a depression, they want to avoid thinking about depression. So when they have a depression attack, they say, okay, I need to stay quiet and think about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not gonna help you because
I fell into that trap too for pretty much the whole time, sophomore or junior year of college. Whenever something happened to me at that point in my life that was like very pivotal for my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pretty much just had this like bad like sort of mental breakdown, I guess. And from that point on, the anxiety just got really bad. And then from that was just like, there was also depression because there was a few things going on in my life. Like I got out of a relationship and that was hard. And then something happened that really scared me for my own like personal security, which I won't really get into, but that was like, it kind of made me like paranoid about kind of my life and how it was going to turn out. And then the last part of that was my dad got like stage 4 throat cancer. And so all of these things were just happening to me all at the same time. And it was just really overwhelming for me. And it really hurt me mentally. And so I was dealing with anxiety and depression every day. And then I started to experience something that I've never had before, which was like intrusive thoughts. And I didn't know what that was. And the first time it happened to me, it really scared me. Like it was like a scary moment for me. And I was like starting to panic and stuff. And then it's exactly like you said, like I just said, okay, I'll just push all the anxiety, push all the bad things away from me. I'll try to avoid it and ignore it and just bury it or something and then try to think of something else. But the more you push away, the more you resist thoughts, the worse that it becomes.
Yes, that's right.
I think this just falls perfectly in like Fung's kind of thing, what he said before, and like that we just do not want to hold it in. That's why like I feel when dealing with, I don't know, depression, it definitely helps to have someone that's close by someone you can talk to and just get all this like negative thoughts outside your head, you know? Like I know I have you guys whenever like I'm feeling down or something, or maybe I have my parents, you know. Just having someone there that you can trust and that they can understand what you're going through, and that's why you find other people who had depression as well, and that's how you can relate. And that's why people who don't judge you because you have depression is people who understand what you're going through. That's what makes it feel like you're releasing all this weight.
Yeah, and even if they don't necessarily understand, maybe they haven't experienced it, even if they just listen to you, it's really nice to just speak about it and take it from out of your brain and into the world, and it's very cleansing. And so something that, you know, you've been thinking about or dwelling on, having worries about the whole day or something, all of a sudden when you talk to this person and you just get it out of your head, you feel a lot better after that.
Yes, so that is one of many ways that I think people deal with depression, that having somebody close and can understand and listen to you. Yes, that also one of the term in Buddhism is called passionate abiding. You listening to somebody else's stories and just listens. So that's how I had some of my friends get out of depression. I listen to their stories and be there with them, be a shoulder for them to fall on.
Yeah.
But also, one of the way that I applied to get out of my depression was meditation. And everyone know about meditation, but also in meditation there are also a lot of ways to meditate.
Yeah.
And what I applied was focus on my breathing.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what meditation actually is, and there's a lot of or a lot of misconceptions about how to actually like practice meditation.
Yes. So
it's not about just closing your eyes.
Yeah.
That's right. Meditation is not just about sitting down and close your eyes and be in the a state that you're not familiar with.
Yeah, they always say clear your mind or something, but really it's impossible to clear your mind. It's more about focusing on something and being present in the moment.
Yes.
And then when your mind wanders off, you notice that you've wandered off and you return to the present moment, maybe focus on.
Yes. So for my depression, when I meditated, I was at nighttime, so I started to focus on my breathing and breathe slower, because when I got a depression attack, I breathe very fast. My heart beats very fast, and it made me even more panic.
Yeah.
So I started to breathe slower. And then my way of meditating is to think deep, not get clear-minded. Even think deeper. I'm not avoiding my problem.
Right.
I'm seeing my problem face to face.
Yes, yeah.
I started to see my past and my present. What's the difference between me before and me now?
Yeah.
And where is the root of my problem? And I'm seeing it so clear.
Once you identify that root,
yes.
I do the same thing. Is I like to look at what was this moment that sort of set off this new mental state that's negative, and then as soon as I identify it, that kind of helps me move on from it. And
it takes a long period of time. It's not going to be solved immediately.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I do believe that what you want to happen, you're going to work to it. So, that moment when I started to tell myself, okay, I wanted this to end. I have a life to live. I have my family to care for. I was very scared to share my depression with a lot of people. So, not like you guys, I'm going to tell somebody else it and they're going to listen to me and I feel released. I'm a type of person that don't want to get people into my own problem that I have. I want to solve it myself.
Right.
So, only when after I got out of depression, I told my friends about it, you know. So when I was in that stage of depression, I was quiet a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
I did everything daily, things without consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell what that means? Like I do things
You
as
just,
on momentum.
yeah,
Mhm.
you're just kind of going off of the
Like a rope.
habit.
Yes.
You're not really doing things with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of
Yes.
surviving.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people, when they saw me and they told me, "Oh my God, your face look so angry. What's wrong?"
Mhm.
Because I was talking with them, but my mind it was in a scare. So I was scared of something. I don't. So I started to. At nighttime is when I have peace and like total silence. I does it to meditate by really breathe slower and then think about what is wrong with my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So in Buddhism, they tell you that the more you get closer to awakenment, enlightenment,
Mm-hmm.
the bigger the trouble you're gonna face.
Mm-hmm.
So they compare your depression or any kind of emotional struggle with an evil inside you that you need to fight
Mm-hmm.
You always gotta
to
fight your.
become a better of yourself.
Yeah, you always gotta fight your inner demons, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's important to face it and not try to ignore it or avoid it or push it away.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more you push away, it's like I said, the more it comes back and it haunts you. And I think something that's important to say is that you are not your thoughts, if that makes sense.
Yes.
The thoughts that come into your minds, even the most mentally healthy, mentally stable people,
Mm-hmm.
they can still suffer from like intrusive thoughts or something.
Yep, that's me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, sometimes I don't know, not everyone is happy to be happy like 24/7 all the time. You know, sometimes we get those. Even me, like, you know, I'm happy and I'm always, you know, glad I always have some positive thoughts. But sometimes you get those just one intrusive
Yes,
thoughts,
yes.
like you just get down on yourself and
Yes,
you just.
that's what
Yeah.
Buddhism teach too.
Mhm.
That your thoughts are always fake. So a lot of my friends that have depression over somebody else's, either they have glasses on,
Mm-hmm.
they imagine thoughts.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. Like, the worst thing that you can do to yourself is have an intrusive thought come into your head. And like, for those of you that don't know, like, kind of what that entails is sometimes it'll be like something violent or something scary or something that just generally, for me at least, like freaks you out, or like it really scares you that like, oh my God, like why did this thing just pop into my head?
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea what it was, and so I was so scared about these like things that were just popping into my head, and I didn't know what an intrusive thought was until I finally decided to just turn to Google and look it up and just research it. And once I discovered what an intrusive thought was, and I read through it, everything, and it just matched me to a T, I realized that there's other people out there like me who are like suffering from this thing. I felt like a great sense of like peace and ease after that, because now I knew not only what I was feeling, but how to approach the problem now.
Mm-hmm.
See, like, for me, if you're suffering from intrusive thoughts, the worst thing that you can do is like, oh my God, like, don't think of this thing or push it away. What I like to do is just like, whenever something comes into my head, I'll just not push it away, but I'll like repeat the word or something a few times, maybe like 5 or 10 times or something like that. And because I'm not pushing it away, I'm actually confronting it in my own way. And then I stop and I let go, and the thoughts,
Yes.
it goes away. The anxiety goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think that it's something that's more common to people with OCD. Is people with OCD are a lot more, I don't know what the word is, like inclined, I guess, to, or predisposition to get intrusive thoughts or something like that. But I feel like it's also a part of just general anxiety or something.
Yes. So that's really true, because I think that being mindful is what helps you to deal with depression. You know what the term
Yeah.
mindful means?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Be always conscious of your surrounding and yourself. Always be aware of what you're thinking and what you're doing. And so when I got out of depression, I changed the way I think about the world and the way I think about myself. So I started to have plans for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to avoid certain things that can be toxic. Because before I had depression, I was open to a lot of things that could be toxic to me, but I didn't realize. So a lot of things on the internet could be toxic too, like the images that I saw, the news that I saw, and the people that have like perfection looking on the internet. But I shouldn't be looking at these people or like, stalking anything like that. Or I need to sort out the news and the feed on Facebook and Instagram. That's why I did, to help me like balance out my life and my thoughts.
That's definitely a good thing to do. I think that if you sort of expose yourself to it, there's exposure therapy, which I think is helpful. I think that kind of almost goes hand in hand with confronting things that scare you or give you anxiety or depression. Is once you face it sort of head on and you expose yourself, you can kind of be rid of it a little bit sooner. But there's also this side that says, you know, if you just don't see it to begin with, you know, ignorance is bliss, like Sonny says.
I'm sorry, but it kind of reminds me of this. I remember, like, I don't know, it was like one talk show or something. It was like, or it was the Murray Show, but they had this one like segment where people had like exposure therapy, where they basically solve their phobia and to get over with. And I just, this is less serious from what we're talking about, but it kind of reminds me about this one lady. She was scared of pickles. And so what they did is that they like sat her down. They didn't know what was gonna happen to her. They didn't know she was gonna be exposed to her phobia. So they got her like a crate full of pickles, and the pickles just fell on their face. You just see her like scrambling around and screaming.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
It's funny. I need to show you guys after this, but
yeah, we'll have to look that up.
So
I think it works though. I think it's effective if you can expose yourself to it enough.
Yes.
But I don't know how you like really expose yourself to those kind of like expose yourself to like depression or something like that. I think
that it's kind of in the sense that you stop avoiding the things that make you feel it in some sense, and then you kind of do some soul searching. You reflect on what's going on in your life, kind of like Fung said, and then once you've gone through that, you sort of, okay, you know, I'm going through this. I've lived through it before, and I think I'm going to be okay now. Because for me, it's definitely more anxiety that I deal with than depression. There's just always like certain things in the back of my mind that I'm like kind of freaked out over, or just kind of irrational things that kind of freak me out. Or
yes, a lot of that is also about your lifestyle. Yeah, you always have to need to balance your lifestyles, the things you do and the people you met and the news you read. Cause I found out that in America culture, the image that you see on the internet or movies and shows, TV shows, they're building the young people, seeing a word that they have to fit. No, but you don't have to rush someone else's timeline.
right.
And you don't have to be someone else's image. Find your own image. So that's what I have two nieces, and I will always tell themselves that what they need to look for that's good in a movie, not comparing themselves with someone else in a movie.
I think that's very true.
Yeah, because I'm from Vietnam, and the society over there is very always seem like they always happy, because people over there always busy. They hardworking people, and they always find happiness in the thing they do, even the hardest job. Even the people who carry heavy luggage and clean the street, they always find happiness. So that's why in Vietnam, people always open their house door. Nobody closes their house door.
That's kind of scary.
Yeah, because we don't have guns over there, and
Oh,
in
guns
the
are banned.
neighborhood, yeah, in the neighborhood, everyone knows each other.
Oh.
So if somebody else close their door, they have something not right. It's all totally opposite to America.
Interesting.
America, everyone had to close their door, right?
Yeah. And they
Every
lock it up
house.
tight.
That's the big difference that when I first came to America, I noticed.
Yeah, you're definitely doing well. I
Yes.
don't want to get shot.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a totally different culture.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people in America have more anxiety and depression than every other country in the world, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And the suicidal rate is going up, right?
Yeah, it's high. It's also high over there in like East Asia. Like I know Japan has a pretty high suicide rate as well.
Yes, that's right.
I
A
think
lot
that they
of
have a
the
very like
developed countries.
yeah, they have like a very stressful work and school sort of culture.
Yes.
Yep.
So I think that one of the things I think helped me to get out of depression was also when I look back into my past compared to myself in the present. I look back in the past that I was in when I was in Vietnam, the culture that I was living in. And I know that I need to travel more. So I need to ask my friend to go other places, like go into nature. Because in Vietnam, I live in a suburban area, like more like in a countryside, so it's all nature, rivers. And whenever I'm sad or bored, I always went outside to explore my neighborhood. So I started to do that when I had depression in America. I asked my friend to walk in the forest and start taking pictures. That's when you guys noticed a lot of photos that I share, right?
Right, yeah.
I always see like outside on your like Snapchat stories, like you're outside walking around this.
And I started to ask myself what I needed the most to help me get out of depression.
Right.
So when I went into these quiet places, like near the pond or in the forest, it's silence, but I can hear a lot. I hear colors, I hear lives, I hear things that trying to survive, and I need that.
I think that's probably because you've had good mindfulness training, and so you've learned how to be more aware. Because I think that if I did the same thing without having that knowledge before, like kind of how I did, I think that if I went into a silent place, I would have just been like overwhelmed with my own thoughts just coming in and barraging me.
I see.
And so I think that meditation is extremely important for just kind of dealing with whatever comes to you, whatever pops into your head like this, and then, you've just return to some point of focus that you were at previously, and then you can kind of let go of those thoughts. And I think that's just a very good thing to do.
Yes. So I also mentioned that when I went to the quiet places, I had to bring a friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to bring somebody that's aware of the thing that I'm experiencing.
Right.
So I had a very close friend. He also into Buddhism. He learning it as a philosophy. So when I went to the forest, he started to tell me, "Feng, look into the sky. You are looking into infinity, and it's reflecting on your eyes. Your eyes are infinite. So what you are experiencing is only the lower point in your mind. You can go deeper. Why don't you do that?" So I was struck by his sayings. I started to think, oh my God, yes, that's right. Why don't I think even deeper than this point? Going to a deeper point. Don't stop at depression. Go over it. So I know you say it's strengthening. A lot of it with my Buddhist thinking. So I think that if you don't find a thing that can help you, maybe you can find spiritual
Yeah.
foundation to fall on.
I'm glad
You know?
I'm glad you bring it up because
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I want to tell sort of the process that I took to kind of get over it as well. And then I'll end with the thing that ultimately helped me the most, which is
Yes.
like more of a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
So,
It's a moral set
yeah.
that our society has built over time. So we as a person, we cannot just build a moral set for us to live based on. So maybe we can borrow something that society provides us.
Yeah.
You know, any kind of moral set or spirituality that you think can help you deal with your balance of emotional issues.
When I was in elementary school, like I mentioned earlier, and I was dealing with that anxiety, and I was suffering just like a lot. I mean, I had really bad, like, I think I even had panic attacks actually, but I just didn't realize what it was, and I was just like really suffering. And so, of course, my parents were very concerned for me, and they decided we tried to go to therapy, and I went to one session. I was like, this is not for me. And so we turned instead to Eastern medicine. So I started getting acupuncture for it. And so for a period of, I don't really remember how long, but it was a couple months at least, I would go to acupuncture every Saturday, every week, every Saturday for several months. And by the time that I came out of the acupuncture, I felt like a brand new person. I went to middle school, I went through high school, and I didn't feel like hardly anything. I mean, any anxiety that I did have would have been considered like pretty normal, or whatever was sort of socially like a good benchmark level of anxiety for whatever you were going through at the time. I definitely was not always trapped inside of my head, always trapped inside of my thoughts anymore. I was experiencing the world more. I was experiencing like real life and sort of using my senses to experience the world more than just my thoughts.
Yeah.
I wasn't trapped anymore. And so I would recommend for any like kids that are going through it to definitely try acupuncture and definitely stay committed to it, because it's not a one-time quick fix or anything like that. It's a very like dedicated process that you have to keep going, and in the end it's very worth it, because after those sessions, after those months of doing it, I was totally good for at least like 7 years. I think after that I was just very like in a good place. And the only thing that happened to me was like something like very like kind of bad, kind of pivotal happened to me, after that, the sophomore year of college, that just totally broke me down, just like totally broke down my mental state. And so that's when some of these other things that I've written down here started to come into play as a factor for me. So after I started falling back into that anxiety cycle, that depression, that sophomore year, it was like one of the hardest years of my life. I started doing three things in particular that were like kind of important to me. The first thing that I started looking for like the meditation, right? I started practicing the mindfulness meditation and trying to like get into the present moment, and that did help, but at the same time that wasn't all encompassing, because I was still avoiding a lot of the thoughts a lot of the time. And so even though in the moment that I was meditating, I got some relief from it, all the other moments in my life were just full of anxiety. I was always trapped inside my head. I couldn't get out. And it's because I was always spending so much time avoiding the what ifs and the worries and the anxiety. And so another thing that I started doing was I did these like chakra cleansing things. Do you know like the seven chakras? So
the only chakras I know is from Naruto.
Yeah. Before that was like me too. But it turns out there's like 7 main chakras, right? It starts like kind of like near your asshole, which is the root chakra, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like this red pool of energy, this like red light of energy. Above that is like the sacral chakra, slightly above it. It's like kind of near like your like sex organs and stuff like that. Above that is your solar plexus. It's like near your belly button. Above is heart. Then there's one for your throat, your third eye, and then the crown.
Okay, so I have a question. Is it like the points that you need to focus on when you meditate?
You can meditate and do certain meditations where you'll focus on that one chakra pool. So for instance, I didn't say what the rest of the colors were. So the root is red, sacral is orange, solar plexus yellow, heart is green, throat is blue. The third eye is like more of like a dark blue, sort of indigo-y, and then the top of it, the crown is like more of a violet, right? And it's sort of like slightly above.
Okay, so I'm just trying to help people imagine what it means. So when we think about it, we just imagine the colors.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do, honestly, is just look up like sort of a graphic of like the 7 chakras. Just like Google the 7 chakras, and you'll see like a lot of pictures where you'll see like the different colors throughout the body, where they are positioned, and then what color they are. And then one thing that you can do when you're doing the meditation is, instead of focusing on the breath, like as you normally would for mindfulness, you would focus on that one point, like the one location, and imagine the color. And what you would do is, as you breathe in, you imagine it expanding. You imagine the light and the point expanding up and getting brighter and brighter. And then as you exhale, you know, you just keep that process going. And so with each inhale, you just imagine this pool getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you just want to like focus on that. I don't know how well that works, but if anything, it was a good placebo for me. The other part of that is, if you go on YouTube, there's like a lot of YouTube channels that put out like different chakra meditation like sounds. Like there's a lot of different frequencies that people believe are like linked to different things. So like you look up the solfeggio, I think that's what it's called, solfeggio frequencies, and then you just like Google all of the different ones, or like a list of it, and it'll tell you exactly like, okay, if you listen to this solfeggio frequency, that's what it resonates with, and then it's linked to a chakra. And so it's actually interesting. The first time that I laid down and I did like a root chakra like sound cleanse / like meditation, I was laying down in my bed with both my earbuds in, and I would focus on the spot, and I actually, every time that the frequency played, it was sort of like a and then it would be nothing, and then it would play the frequency again. Every time the frequency played, I felt a very strong vibration right where it was. And so I started to think, okay, like that's pretty insane that this is actually like resonating within my body exactly where it's depicted to be. And so I started doing that every single night. I would listen to the root chakra one, because root chakra is about your sense of safety and security in the world. It deals with like being rooted in the earth, you know, kind of not having your thoughts all over, you know, you're bringing yourself back to being grounded. And it's also to deal with like financial stability and things like that. So it's a very good place to start if you're feeling kind of like up in the air and you know, sort of having anxiety. You just do the root one. And eventually, you know, I just went through all 7 of them, and I would repeat that. And there was definitely relief that came with that. Again, I don't know if it was just placebo or if that was like a very genuine like healing process, but that still was not good enough. I was still feeling intrusive thoughts because I didn't know what it was. I hadn't gotten to that point in my life yet where I researched it. I didn't even know what it was. Couldn't tell you. I was still dealing with intrusive thoughts. I was still dealing with anxiety. I was still dealing with the depression. It's a little bit less at that point because time had healed it. I mean, at this point, it's probably like several months after, you know, all the bad news sets in and things like that. But then I discovered something called the Wim Hof method. The Wim Hof method is basically a combination of breathing exercises along with cold exposure. And it's supposed to boost the autonomic nervous system and help you respond to outside stimulus in a positive way. So for example, what you would do to practice is you would do like 30 deep breaths in, like, and then out, not all the way out, but just like a little bit, just so it would release. So it'd be like 30 times. You do that. Once you get to the top of the cycle, the 30th one, you let go all of the air in your lungs. Just completely release. And you hold that as long as you can. And it turns out that what you're doing is you're sort of oxidizing all the cells in your body. You're like overloading the oxygen in your body. And so normally...
I have a question. Is it something that you do when you had a depression attack, or you do it before you sleep?
Well, it's something that you can do sort of every day. I mean, you can do it in the morning or whenever you feel like you need to. It's just something that's like good to practice. I mean, for me, I always do meditation, Wim Hof in the mornings and stuff, and then the cold exposure whenever you take a shower. But basically, like, once you've done the release, what you'll find is that if you tried to let all the air out of your lungs right now, see how long you can hold your breath for. Like, try it, Fung. Like, let go of all the air in your lungs, like, and see how long you can go without breathing. Was that it?
I can go longer, but
basically,
I didn't eat well.
What's incredible? So let's say that it's like maybe 10 to 15 seconds maximum, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've done the Wim Hof method, 3 rounds of this,
Mm-hmm.
I've held my breath with no air in my lungs for over 3 minutes.
Chris, are you okay?
I'm good.
Don't die on me, Chris.
Because it turns like if you do that, you don't feel the need to breathe because the cells already have like a lot of oxygen.
Wow.
After you've held, after
I
you've like felt the need to breathe again, you breathe in like all the way in, and then you hold it for 10 seconds. You let go. You repeat the cycle, and you can do it for like, they recommend like 3 rounds of it. But basically the idea, and the other part of it is the cold exposure. Basically just take cold showers, take ice baths. It's good for you.
You're going to be telling me that.
Yeah, it's good for you because it shocks you. It forces you to be in the present moment. And it forces the first time you get into a cold shower and you feel it on your back, your spine for the first time, you start breathing like this. Like you start like hyperventilating because it's such a shock to your system. But as you do it more and more, your nervous system becomes more acclimated to it. It doesn't even faze you anymore. So that's kind of the idea behind this cold exposure is if you can withstand the cold, you can withstand other kinds of negative external stimulus to your body. So your brain is responding to it, your nervous system's responding to it a lot more positively. So I would definitely encourage people to like look into Wim Hof, the Wim Hof method, and see kind of like its origins and the things that it claims to, heal and things like that. And I did find a lot of relief with that. I think that it was like a really good method to try. But again, it still was not perfect. So finally, the last 3 things I would try. The first one was research. I was so tired of having these intrusive thoughts. I didn't know what was happening to me. I was scared. And once I finally just like Googled it, I honestly should have just like talked to someone professional because they could have told me like instantly what was happening to me. It turns out it's like more common than I ever like could have imagined. Once I understood what was happening to me, the knowledge was power. I was completely at peace at that point because I knew, like I said, like I knew what it was. I knew how to handle it and I knew how to confront it like head on. And I felt like this great sense of comfort knowing that I was like normal and maybe like not amazingly like mentally healthy in the moment, but I wasn't alone either. And I was able to like kind of go through that and be okay. The next one, of course, was like just talking to people. That's always a good thing to do. And we've touched on that a lot. And then finally, like that was the longest tangent ever, but getting to Fung's point of like spirituality is when I started going to church again, I started like building my faith in like God again, like the Christian faith. And I started putting a lot of my problems like into prayers and stuff and just praying for relief. I honestly feel like prayer, because you're directly confronting the problem in your head, you're like thinking it or you're saying it out loud and you're just putting it out there. I think that's like very therapeutic. And I feel like the prayer, half of the change just comes from like admitting problems to yourself or like to whatever like higher power that you feel like you're talking to, and then just getting relief in that sort of way. So I think that Fung's point about spirituality, sorry that took so long to get to.
Nah, man, it's good.
That's
It's good.
So do you think like you get over completely now, or do you...
I genuinely feel like I'm 99.9% of the way there.
Nice.
That's high
Like,
percentage.
yeah, I mean, I would say 100%, but I know I'll always have some level of anxiety, you know?
Yeah, you can't really avoid it.
You can't get rid of it completely, I think, but my God, the level I was in such a dark, horrible place for about 2 years of my life, and I honestly did not want to be alive. Like, it was so bad, I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And thank God, you know, I was constantly searching for something to give me relief, something to find a way out of that, like, very dark place. And I think that I'm substantially better of a person now than I was before because of it. Because, like, now, if I ever get into a similar situation where I'm, like, falling into that cycle again, and I've come, you know, even after that, like this year, maybe something's happened that's given me anxiety, because I know how my brain operates now, because of, like, the research I've done, the people I've talked to, like, the kind of, like, looking inside myself that I've done, and not being afraid to seek help. That's the big thing, is, like, you have to be brave enough to, like, seek the help out and trust people, because they want to help you. And even if you're scared of getting the answers yourself, you'll ultimately be better for it. And so my point is, like, even if anxiety comes back, depression comes back or something, you know exactly how to deal with it.
Yes.
After that point.
Yeah, so that's
so,
right.
So if something like that, like what happened to you, from like someone, that long distance relationship didn't turn out that well. So if that happens again to you, are you able to handle it now, since you have this kind of experience with this?
Yes, I can say that I know how to handle it.
Even if it takes time.
Yes, because I do believe that it's a stage of becoming mature, like maturity, you growing up. So depression is a part of it. So that's why I pointed out that this can help a lot of college students, because they are growing to a state of maturity. They're growing up this stage. But I believe that after the storm, there are rainbows.
Yeah.
So after going through something that's like this, depression, you become a better person. So I can say to myself that I'm more mature, and I'm aware of what I'm thinking, and things around me speak to me. Like even things that are intangible, like emotions.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
So whenever I listen to music, I become more into it, right?
I see.
Yeah.
I love the music. I love the vocals. It gives me goosebumps.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's why something I never felt before.
Interesting.
Yes.
So after you've gone through this process, now you feel
more emotionally awake.
Empowered. Or
interesting.
I feel woke.
You can, like, connect
to things.
You can connect to it.
And
wow.
I connect to people's stories.
I see.
And I feel happy when others feel happy. So I feel a purpose in my life that I want to help as many people as I can.
Yeah.
So I think it's something that I have as priority now. So
yeah.
If I don't have something as priority, I may fall back to depression. So I need to stay on track of myself.
Yeah, I think that as long as you continue practicing the mindfulness and you always just get to know your own mind better, don't turn away from it. Turn towards it and understand. I think that you can really help a lot of people like that.
Yes.
The fear of the unknown is probably man's number one fear.
Absolutely.
Honestly, just being scared of what we don't know or don't understand is probably, it's just really awfully scary. It's kind of like, you know, like the paranormal or something like that, like we talk about in the podcast. Something that we don't understand is what's really scaring us, and that's what happens with depression and anxiety. We don't understand these kind of feelings when we first get them.
Right.
But that's more and more we learn from it as we research, we talk to other people's in like kind of therapy or something, that we are able to fight through this, and that we're able to fight this kind of demon that we don't know, but now we do know. So,
I think that's exactly right. Honestly, fear of the unknown is like perfectly sums up where pretty much all my anxiety comes from. It's just you're always asking the what if questions. You don't know what's going to happen. I think that was like very well put.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I throughout this podcast, you know, sometimes I always don't like to say weird things, but sometimes, you know, when it comes to this stuff, and listen to you guys, you know, I gotta get serious and can't fool around all the time.
Well, it's good too. I mean, this podcast so far has been very kind of like serious, and I don't know, it's been a little bit not like dark,
Real.
but yeah, it's definitely been real.
and connecting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the important sort of takeaway is that even though Fung and I, and even Sunny, have gone through, like, even multiple periods of life where it's been difficult to get through, or it's been just almost unbearable. I mean, the mental state that we're in now, and the emotional state, everything, it's so much better.
Yes.
I think that if you just remember that life does not stay as shitty as it is sometimes, and it's always going to improve and improve and improve, especially if you improve yourself and you understand yourself. It always gets better. I mean, like, the person I am today is so not the person I was like during that time of my life. I'm so much happier now. Like, everything is going like so well, and I mean, to think it's like this now compared to then. I mean, it's just it almost seems like a miracle. And so I think the biggest takeaway is just to always have faith in yourself.
It sounds very cliche, but it actually really does help if you actually believe yourself and
Believe in yourself.
Yes, believe that you can be a better yourself. Like you just compare it to a diamond. A diamond takes like years, right? And it's worth just invaluable rock, but it go to eruption and storm and heat to become something valuable.
Right.
So you don't want to live peacefully. You want to face as your problems and deal with it to become something that you can share with other people, like a knowledge that you can share with other people and also help yourself in the future.
I think that's a great metaphor.
Yeah, so I just want to wrap up like that's as long as you be knowledgeable of what you experience.
Yeah,
and
definitely be knowledgeable. Definitely never be too afraid of what you're going through to look for answers. Always look for answers. Always confront it. And put your faith in yourself, or put your faith into a higher power. Because once I did that, that was a big, big change for me. Life has been going uphill since then.
Even the darkest coal become the shiniest diamond.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
I'm very happy that I can share with finalists. Because a lot of time that I share with my friends and the people that experiencing the difficulty of depression, but now I can speak to a more open and bigger public community.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys have something in common and can find a way to deal with it yourself.
If anybody has gone through similar things, we would definitely love to hear about it. If you just want to throw it in a comment or something like that on Castbox, anything, I don't know, I hope that anything in here helps somebody, and I hope that if it did help you, or you have something that helped you that we didn't mention, that you would share it with us, and we would love to speak about it in another episode in the future or something like that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you sticking around for this episode. We know it was like a little bit heavy, a little bit emotional.
Way different from
and
our
let us know if you like topics like this, like being real and honest.
Yeah,
of course.
Fung would definitely be a good recurring guest to have on for this sort of thing. And we would love to get Raz's input whenever he's back from India.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we can look forward to this again. But yeah, in the meantime, definitely let us know anything that's helped you in the past, or anything that you think that would help us, or just, I don't know, anything. Or share good vibes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm just going to end it off in a famous saying that, I keep the heart, The past is the past, the future is a mystery, but today is something special, and that's why it's called present. I'll see you guys later.
See you next time.
Take care.